Let's do this. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Darramaragal people as the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm connecting with you all today. And I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us at this event. Thank you so much for connecting in this morning. As I mentioned before, we were expecting somewhere close to 600 people registering for this event. Parts of this video will be recorded so that we can kind of spread the word afterwards. But some of the, I guess, more intimate conversations in the breakout room would be kind of kept to that level. But obviously, we want to reach out afterwards and have a conversation with you should you be interested. For those who don't know me, my name is Victor Lee. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Communitia. I'm joined by Alex Santos, our product manager, who's led the development of what we're showcasing today. And more importantly, he leads our innovation around the role of technology in the volunteering space. But more about that later. A bit about myself. I was born in Hong Kong and came to Australia over 30 years ago. I refer to myself as a bit of a banana. I'm yellow on the outside, white on the inside. I've grown up here. And really, ever since we arrived in Australia, volunteering has really been a part of our family tradition. We thought it was a great way for us to meet like-minded people and also help contribute to a society that gave us the opportunity to be here in the first place. I guess my simple vision personally is that one day, volunteering becomes an essential part of people's lives, and I will be able to play a small part in helping individuals find their purpose, whatever that might look like, which is really why Communitia was founded in the first place. Community is a social enterprise with the mission to connect, engage, and mobilize volunteers to tackle the world's greatest challenges. We use a combination of programmatic and technological solutions to facilitate collaboration between corporates, universities, not-for-profits, and individuals to amplify our collective impact. Look, I figured everyone who's gathered here today would understand the value of volunteering intrinsically, and there's no questions about its benefits to individuals. And I think if done properly, it can also increase the capacity for the community sector whilst shaping your organization's culture and lift the engagement of your staff or students at the same time. The question really is the how. I guess in light of the recent and significant drop in our national volunteering pool since COVID, also how do we scale the solution, which is, I guess, why we're bringing everyone here today. One of the roles that Community plays in the system is as an aggregator. By working in between corporates, universities, not-for-profits, and individuals, we facilitate collaboration between the stakeholders to create lasting impact. And that centerpiece is really where we think the magic happens. At the same time, we recognize that with each stakeholder group, they bring their own needs and complexities with them. Sometimes they have their preferences, which can result in competing priorities, or at the very least, misunderstanding and sometimes miscommunication as well. So to get down to the actual problems, rather than servicing the symptoms, we've conducted an extensive research over the last 9 months. It wasn't that things weren't working. Moreover, it wasn't working well enough for us to achieve that vision that we've talked about in a progressive and sustainable way. So for the rest of today's session, we want to share some of our learnings, our insights, and of course, our solution with you in order to create a deeper engagement with your volunteers. So I thought let's start with a snapshot of Community's product timeline. Good, okay, see your background. Okay, so Community really was launched back in 2018 off the back of a state of volunteering report compiled by Volunteering Australia and PwC. And looking ahead into the future, 6 out of the 8 recommendations were focused around the use of technology. And this was really when we became a specialist in virtual volunteering. Subsequently, the first version of our platform tried to tackle the challenges of virtual collaboration, which I guess we're all very familiar with nowadays, by introducing project management functionalities. And this ensured that volunteering opportunities can be divided into bite-sized chunks, and the division of labor in a project team is clearer. Next, in 2019, we introduced skill-based volunteering, where we believe would create long-term impact by solving some of the business challenges in the not-for-profit sector, and thereby help build their capacity. We introduced a skills list with varying degrees of success. As you will know, corporates and not-for-profit sectors have their own niche in terms of technical skills. And furthermore, we also created a consultation process whereby we would engage with a not-for-profit representative to understand their needs and translate them into skill-based volunteering opportunities. Next comes 2020. I guess in the midst of massive bushfires, raging floods, and of course, the beginning of the pandemic, it was clear that the voices of the not-for-profit sector were drowned out and the recruitment of new volunteers was becoming increasingly harder. Therefore, we increased our emphasis on content creation and storytelling and introduced social media tech into our platform to give not-for-profits a dedicated communication channel to engage with a volunteer pool. Almost there, 2021. I guess as we progress further into the pandemic, we saw a massive shift into working from home. Traditional volunteering has pretty much paused, and with it came a new wave of communication problems and barriers that we all try to navigate, almost retraining ourselves on how to attract and recruit volunteers again. We were facilitating weekly events for different stakeholder groups to keep everyone engaged. And we also launched several campaigns that presented a big why to get an interest from people across different sectors to collaborate with one another on one thing. Whilst these events and campaigns were highly successful, we also realized that we were kind of doing more and more things off platform. And curiously, what worked for us pre-pandemic, when virtual volunteering was only a small portion of the volunteer pool, was no longer the case when virtual volunteering became the only way that people could engage during the hard lockdown, which really leads us to the present. So it's actually at this point where we brought in Alex on board to really unpack what we've done with tech so far in the last 4 years and get back to the basics of identifying exactly what the real challenges are in volunteer engagement. Alex joined us after years of service in both the corporate sector and the community-based organizations, and his last role is actually with Amnesty International. And I'll just put a plug in there, he didn't know this. It was actually Alex's first year anniversary with us yesterday, and we're really lucky to have him. So thank you for joining us. We're really lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabs. Okay, enough talk from me. Let's kind of hear from the expert. But I guess to start off with Alex, let's start maybe with a philosophical question. What do you think the role of technology in volunteering is?
I think one of the key things here in general with technology is in any platform, system, whatever it may be, the core goal is to remove the junk and focus on those key interactions. So particularly in virtual volunteering and volunteering in general, what we really want to get to is those actual interactions between the volunteer and the volunteer manager. And we actually did a big, what's called a design sprint on this and sat down and said, what are these key interactions? What are the things we need to focus on? And that's where we've kind of come to this journey to what we've just released.
Fantastic. I guess, look, throughout the promotion of this launch, we've been telling people that we've gotten back to basics and the months of research and development, which we have actually. It's a pretty long journey. But I'm just curious, how was that research done? Who did we talk to? How comprehensive was it?
Yeah, cool. So I think one of the first things here as well is to mention why we do this research before building anything is this adage that most of the community is sick of me saying is it's better to go 20 kilometers an hour in the right direction than 100 kilometers an hour in the wrong one. So we wanted to really scale back and figure out what is the exact problem we're trying to solve and start solving that. And the way we actually did this was that aforementioned, we sat down and really tried to identify these problems. And then we built something very simplistic, very cheap to make, easy, and started putting it in front of our core, I guess you'd say, volunteers and volunteer managers. From that piece of thing that they could actually interact with and say, oh, how they felt about it, we started to really draw the insights that the sector was, of the issues the sector itself was beginning to face. With those insights, we developed more and more, created multiple prototypes, worked them through with different people, always constantly going back to either the volunteer or the volunteer manager and talking to them and making sure that we actually understand the issue that they have in front of them. And always going back to the piece that Vic said before, solving the root cause rather than the symptom that they're currently experiencing.
Cool. Thank you for explaining that. That's a very good summary of design thinking. Maybe it's time to go into a bit of the highlights and the findings. So look, we've done again 9 months of research. There's almost a whole paper's worth of finding for us. Oh, it just disappeared. At the perfect time.
Incredible. Yeah.
Oh, good. But are you able to share with us some of the highlights and findings that you got from the research?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the key things that we saw first and foremost with every single volunteer we spoke to was they care far more about the cause of the not-for-profit they are looking to volunteer with than the skills they have on offer. So what that means is actually connecting them with the right not-for-profit rather than the not-for-profit that specifically needs their skills right now is a really core piece of this. And that's for the volunteer side became, okay, we need to make sure we are building that communication piece around finding the not-for-profit that's right for you. On the flip side, there were 3 scenarios where not-for-profit we found, and just this is a simplification, of course, where not-for-profit would want to volunteer. The first is they need people for an event, so we just need bodies there. The second, we need a vague set of skills, but they can come in. Maybe it's data cleaning. We don't need a hyper-specific skill set, but we can find someone who knows more or less what they're doing. We can bring them in, they can help us out. The third is we need a hyper-specific skill set. Maybe it's we need a front-end developer who has skills in marketing, so they can help make sure our fundraising page is exactly what it needs to be. And those 3 scenarios made us really sit down and think about the features that would allow you to find each of those quickly and easily, which we'll definitely be able to go through a bit later on.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I guess, bringing back to what community's been doing in the development side, how did these kind of highlights and findings translate into the design of our latest product?
And I've disappeared again, and I'm back. The biggest thing, there's the talking head. The biggest thing I will probably go to is communication is key. One of the key things that we found in the research as well was that most volunteer relationships were still managed via email. I'm sure there's no argument here of why that is an issue. Every point during the process of either being a volunteer or a volunteer manager, it should be 2 clicks away to talk to the person you want to talk to. It's just a button there and you can just have that conversation. The reality is that is the most important interaction, is the conversation. From there as well, one of the things we really found, and this is going back a question a little bit here, was you really need to make sure that you're meeting the emotional state of the volunteer or the emotional needs of the volunteer before we are actually asking them to do something. And that's for both parties need to really make sure that they have that meeting. Oh, disappeared again. And I think that's key to why we make communication and the conversation like the center point of what we're doing here. There's a whole bunch more. And one of the key things I'll mention here as well is we have separated the workflows. If you log in as a volunteer manager or the administrator of a community, you see a different platform than the volunteer has. And that's to make sure that the workflows that each party is following actually is their workflow, not trying to force them into a weird one that kind of matches both. So we've really separated that out to make sure that it cleanly matches the workflow you're actually trying to do.
Cool, thanks, Alex. Look, I guess from my point of view, I've grown very accustomed to the last platform that we had, and this is some serious work where we ripped everything apart and start from a blank canvas, really from a front end point of view. So I'm really excited to show you what it looks like. But before we go, I just want to kind of touch on our approach, which is really based on the idea of micro-solidarity, which is where this kind of background came from. I'm going to ask Alex and challenge him to try to explain this in a matter of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And see how we go.
So this is a bunch of essays and a bunch of work done by Richard Bartlett, who's a political scientist from the United States. So highly recommend it. But the core idea is that it's the different ways of working together. And as an individual, it's pretty clear to see how you work. And I've gone again. It's pretty clear to see how you work. In a partnership, that's still relatively clear. But then you kind of get to a stage called a crew, which is 3 to 8 people. It becomes a bit more time requires, it needs to be spent on managing the different work. From there, you get to a congregation, which is even more people, and the amount of work that goes into managing the work gets higher. And from a congregation to a crowd. Each of these, I guess you'd say, groupings are made up of this grouping before it. And trying to understand that, and this is a very complicated political, I guess, theory, so I'm trying to do it very quickly, apologies. But the idea is that we are trying to enable this on scale as quickly and as easily as possible, that it happens organically without us constantly needing to make these things happen.
Right, thanks, Alex. Just getting a quick wave that we're at time, which is good. So I guess, look, in summary, we've diluted the theory of micro-solidarity down to 3 design principles that influence our latest release of the product, which is 1, community-led approach has to be core. 2, the first interaction between a volunteer and a not-for-profit representative really matters, and it triggers a huge difference in retention. And last but not least, scoping is everything. So really understanding what people need to do before they commit is really a huge factor in whether people would take that first step and start volunteering. So on that note, we're actually going to open up 4 breakout rooms shortly, and they'll be attended by our wider team members. So in the corporate breakout room, you have Alex O'Shaughnessy and other Alex in our team, and myself. In the university's breakout room, we have Michelle and Ken. In the not-for-profits breakout room, we have Raj and Jaina. And last but not least, in the volunteers breakout room, we have Willem. I guess you need to self-select which room is relevant for you. And the idea behind this is to provide you with a personalized experience to see how we've taken these design principles and implemented them into our platform. So when you get to the breakout room, feel free to ask your facilitator any questions. And really, I look forward to seeing everyone back in the main room in about 20-25 minutes time. Take care. I'll see you soon. Look, thank you for coming back. I know 20 minutes is a short time, but we deliberately kept it short so that you can get a feel of our new approach. And I guess we want you to walk away feeling inspired or curious, or maybe a bit of both. As you can appreciate, intentions need to be translated into actions in order for impact to be created. And therefore, there's a series of call to actions that we have for all of our participants. Starting with, I guess, for our corporate representatives, please reach out and set up a consultation session with us so we can discuss how our new approach can unlock volunteering participation in your organization. For education representatives, reach out to us and explore the ideas and collaborate further to enhance your student engagement, employability, and social impact. For not-for-profit representatives, I guess start enjoying the benefits that we've shown today. We'd love to kind of onboard you properly. And there will be a series of upcoming information sessions to kind of support you along the way. And last but not least, our volunteers, simply log in, re-engage, and give it a go. Based on our testing, we know this works and really kind of front loads that initial interaction between yourself and a not-for-profit representative. So log in, sign up, and give it a go, and we will try to provide you with support along the way. At the end of this session, and I guess for the rest of this week, our team is going to reach out to you with an email, a phone call, whatever that may be, to really have that conversation. Again, we recognize that the 20 minutes we've got is not a lot of time. So we would love to kind of take that conversation further and answer any other questions or concerns as it may be, and kind of attend to it in a more personalized way. I guess moving forward, in terms of our plans, Alex, I'm going to throw it back at you, which is, can you share some of where we're going with our technology?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the immediate term, we're going to be really focusing on making the current platform experience as good as it can be. So there'll be a lot of bug fixes, slight refinements, making it look and feel as great as it can. But after that, we really want to be talking to pretty much everyone here in this room in one way, shape, or form. For the volunteers, we want to figure out the way to help you guys work together and crew to make even greater impact. For the not-for-profits, what are the actual need cases and problems that you're trying to solve in your day-to-day to make sure that that works better for you on our platform? For the corporates, similar to what we've done here, we want to be building an entire workflow that allows you to do your job as best you can and get that junk and the hard parts, the things that don't add value, out of the way and allow you to really scale your impact. And for the education side, similarly, we're looking to build a unique platform experience to make sure that it is filling your needs and really allowing you to make that impact that you want as well. So for the most part, if we can talk to you, that's the key thing. If we can sit down, have a conversation, we put a couple of things in front of you, and we can really make that technological impact over time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. And also, I guess in regards to the launch of this new platform, over the next few weeks, we'll be providing targeted support to our existing clients, first and foremost, to ensure that there's a smooth transition between kind of what it was and what is. We'll also take this opportunity to really re-engage each of our not-for-profit organizations to ensure that you're on board and that your opportunities are up to date and you're getting the most out of a community to scale your impact. In closing, I guess, to my loyal and dedicated team who've been working tirelessly for months to bring this latest release to life, a huge thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been 9 months in the making, to say the least. And finally, to close off, on behalf of the community team, thank you again for your participation today. And I hope that we've created a spark for you to be the change that you want to see in this world. Thank you.